There's an app on your phone right now that knows more about you than your closest friend. It knows who you talked to last night. It knows the doctor's name you mentioned in passing. It knows the fight you had with your spouse, the anxiety you typed out at 2 a.m., the photo of your child you shared in a group. And starting May 2026, that app officially handed all of that context. Not to you, not to a doctor, not to a court, but to an artificial intelligence system designed to make a corporation richer. That app is WhatsApp, and what just happened inside it should terrify you. Most people did not notice when it happened. That is the point. Meta embedded its AI system directly into WhatsApp's core messaging infrastructure. Not as an optional feature you choose to download, not as a separate app you can ignore, but as a default, built-in component of the WhatsApp you already have on your phone. There was no dramatic announcement. There was no countdown clock. There was no moment where your phone buzzed with an urgent notification saying your privacy was about to fundamentally change. It just happened. Quietly, efficiently, exactly the way the most consequential data collection events in history always happen. Not with a bang, but with a terms of service update buried inside an app you open 30 times a day. Think about what that means for a moment. WhatsApp is not Facebook. WhatsApp is not Instagram. Those platforms, people understand. People know those are public-facing, ad-driven environments designed to observe your behavior and sell it back to advertisers. But WhatsApp occupies a completely different psychological space. It is where you talk to your children. It is where you share family photos. It is where you plan things, discuss things, say things you would not say on a public platform. That is not an accident. That is the value of the asset Meta is now moving to monetize more aggressively. The intimacy of WhatsApp, the very reason 2 billion people trust it, is precisely what makes it the most powerful data source Meta has ever had access to. And now, Meta AI lives inside it by default. But here's where it gets more complicated than most coverage is letting on. The story being told in mainstream media is simple. Meta added AI to WhatsApp. Privacy advocates are angry. Here is how to opt out. That version of the story is incomplete. It misses the architecture underneath, the timeline of decisions that were made long before May 2026, the regulatory battles now erupting across 3 continents, and the much larger strategic picture that Meta has been executing for years. What most people are not seeing is that this is not a privacy update. This is the final consolidation move in a multi-year data empire expansion. And the window to do anything about it, for most people on Earth, may already be closing. Let us go back to where this really started, because the May 2026 moment did not appear out of nowhere. On October 1st, 2025, Meta announced that user interactions with Meta AI, its AI chatbot embedded across Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and even its Ray-Ban smart glasses, would become part of the company's ad targeting system. Read that again? Not your posts, not your likes, not your public-facing behavior. Your conversations with an AI assistant that most users assumed was a private, helpful tool. Starting December 16th, 2025, Meta began using those conversations to personalize ads across all of its platforms. This affected over 1 billion monthly Meta AI users and marked Meta's most direct move yet to monetize its AI investments. There was no opt-out option. If you used Meta AI, your conversations became targeting signals. And this is where everything changes in terms of how you should understand what WhatsApp AI really is. When you ask Meta AI something, anything, the conversation does not evaporate. If a user asks Meta AI what hiking boots are good for beginners, they immediately start seeing ads for hiking gear, recommendations for hiking groups, and posts about trails. Previous targeting relied on what users chose to share publicly. AI conversations feel private, even when they are not. That gap between how private conversations feel and how private they actually are is where Meta's entire 2026 strategy lives. The company has understood for years that the most valuable data is not what you broadcast. It is what you whisper. And now it has built an AI system specifically designed to be the thing you whisper to. According to informed sources in the digital privacy community, what makes this particularly dangerous is the depth of inference the system is now capable of making. It is not just about what you directly ask. At its core, Meta's AI relies on vast data sets to train models, and user chats provide a goldmine of real-time contextual data. By analyzing queries to Meta AI, the system can infer interests, moods, and even intentions, refining algorithms for hyper-personalized feeds. You do not have to ask about a medical condition directly. You just have to mention that you have been tired lately, that a family member is in the hospital, that you are looking for information about a particular medication. The system connects dots you did not know you were drawing. But here is where it gets worse. Something you mention in what feels like a harmless chat with Meta AI, your routines, your favorite places, your child's name, could later resurface in eerily familiar ads or recommendations. Privacy researchers have documented this. It is not speculation. The system is designed to learn from every signal you provide. And it is extraordinarily good at making connections between pieces of information that seem disconnected to you, but form a complete behavioral profile for Meta's advertising infrastructure. The company's own documentation makes this explicit. Beyond AI chat data, Meta's policy update allows the company to use AI interactions across its entire ecosystem to learn about you and serve you targeted ads, including from Meta smart glasses that collect photos, video, and voice recordings, from Meta Vibes, which tracks what you watch and skip and replay, and from the Meta AI image generator, which analyzes your prompts and uploaded photos, including embedded information like objects, text, and locations. This is not a single product. This is a surveillance ecosystem. And WhatsApp, with its 2 billion daily active users and its reputation for encrypted private communication, is the crown jewel of that ecosystem. Now let us talk about the mechanism that Meta is using to make this palatable, because the company is not doing this without a cover story. That cover story is called private processing, and understanding it is essential to understanding why the situation is more complex and in some ways more alarming than a simple opt-out conversation. Private processing is a secure technology from Meta that enables certain optional Meta AI features, like summarizing messages, providing writing help, and incognito chats with Meta AI. Private processing enables you to use Meta AI for processing messages off-device in what Meta describes as a confidential and secure environment where no one, not even Meta or WhatsApp, can read or access your messages. On paper, this sounds reassuring. The technical architecture involves trusted execution environments, specialized hardware that processes data in isolation. Meta has published a white paper. Security researchers have been given some access to audit the system. The company is investing genuine engineering effort into making this claim defensible. But the real story is the contrast. At the moment, Meta is heavily promoting this new incognito chat mode for its Meta AI assistant in WhatsApp, built on top of private processing. On 8th May 2026, Meta simultaneously removed optional end-to-end encryption for Instagram direct messages entirely. Users who had previously turned the feature on were shown notices that end-to-end encrypted messaging on Instagram is no longer supported as of 8 May 2026, and were urged to download backups of their encrypted conversations before the cutoff. Pause on that for a second. The same week, Meta is launching what it calls its most privacy-protective AI feature on one platform. It is eliminating encryption protections entirely on another. This is not a coincidence. This is the clearest possible demonstration of what informed observers have been saying for years. Privacy features at Meta are added where they support a strategic narrative and removed where they conflict with business priorities. Meta's recent moves show that strong privacy features can be added where they support a strategic narrative and removed where they conflict with business or regulatory priorities. The real story is this: Meta does not have a privacy philosophy. Meta has a privacy strategy, and those are two completely different things. And this is where the regulatory dimension of this story becomes impossible to ignore. The European Commission has opened a formal antitrust investigation to assess whether Meta's new policy on artificial intelligence, providers' access to WhatsApp, may breach EU competition rules. This investigation is not primarily about user privacy in the way most people understand it. It is about a structural issue that goes deeper. Meta's decision to block third-party AI assistants from operating through the WhatsApp Business API, which effectively forces businesses and users into Meta's own AI ecosystem. If you cannot use a competitor's AI inside WhatsApp, and WhatsApp has 2 billion users, then Meta has constructed a monopoly position over AI access to the largest private messaging network on Earth. The timeline here is critical. The most consequential shift occurred on January 15th, 2026, when Meta moved to block or restrict general-purpose third-party AI assistants from operating through the WhatsApp Business API ecosystem. Meta's AI policy is defined less by a new WhatsApp Terms of Service deadline and more by competition law, privacy engineering, and platform control over artificial intelligence services. This is the layer that most consumer-facing coverage completely misses. The competition concern is not just about data. It is about power. It is about who controls AI access to private communication at global scale. And Meta is making absolutely certain the answer to that question is Meta. According to informed observers in the Brussels regulatory community, the European Commission's investigation could result in interoperability requirements that would force Meta to allow competing AI services to operate within WhatsApp. European interoperability rules now reshape WhatsApp competition rules. This would be structurally transformative, not just for Meta, but for the entire AI industry. If a precedent is set that communication platforms cannot exclusively lock in their own AI services, it changes the competitive landscape for every tech giant with a similar ambition. Google, Apple, Amazon, all of them are watching Brussels very carefully right now. But the fight in Europe is only part of what is happening globally. And for most users of WhatsApp, the 2 billion people who are not in the European Union, the regulatory protections that exist in Brussels simply do not apply. Only some countries give you the right to opt out. Depending on where you live, you may have the right to object to your data being used by Meta AI and its partners. For example, those in the EU, UK, Switzerland, Brazil, Japan, and South Korea have formal opt-out rights under privacy laws like GDPR. But most people in the US and the rest of the world currently do not have this option, which means there is no legal way to prevent Meta AI from processing their information. Read that again. For the majority of WhatsApp's global user base, billions of people across Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, there is no legal mechanism to prevent this. There is no form to fill. There is no objection to lodge. The law simply does not protect them. And Meta knows this. The asymmetry is not accidental. The company's global strategy has always been to deploy in regions where regulatory scrutiny is weakest, establish behavioral norms before legislation catches up, and then argue that changing the existing system would be too disruptive. It is a playbook with an undefeated record. Now here is where the situation becomes personally urgent for every individual user, regardless of where they live. Messages sent to Meta AI are processed on the company's servers to generate responses and maintain context. These exchanges fall outside WhatsApp's standard end-to-end encrypted user-to-user model. Users may disclose sensitive details, including health, financial, or personal information, without knowing how long the data is stored or how it may be used. The encryption that WhatsApp built its reputation on applies to messages between people. It does not apply to your interactions with Meta AI. The moment you type anything to the AI assistant embedded in WhatsApp, even accidentally, even just to dismiss it, that data flows through a completely different pipeline, one that is explicitly designed to feed Meta's behavioral modeling systems. And the exposure potential is significantly larger than most users realize. In June 2025, Meta AI searches and prompts were made public on a Discover feed. In some cases, people's usernames and profile photos made those posts easy to trace back to their social media accounts. This was not a hack. This was not a breach. This was the system functioning as designed. And the results were conversations people believed were private becoming publicly discoverable. The incident was quietly corrected, but the implications were never fully addressed. If Meta AI interactions can become public by design, even temporarily, then the entire premise of a private AI assistant on a private messaging platform contains a fundamental contradiction. Then came March 2026. A Meta AI agent reportedly caused a major internal data exposure after giving faulty instructions to an engineer, briefly making sensitive user and company data accessible to employees. A Meta spokesperson said that no user data was mishandled and that a human could have made the same mistake. However, that framing downplays the reality that AI systems can make errors faster, at a much greater scale, and without the judgment an experienced engineer could bring. This is not a minor footnote. This is a preview of systemic risk. When an AI system is handling data at the scale Meta operates, billions of conversations, petabytes of behavioral signals, real-time inference across hundreds of millions of simultaneous users, a single misconfiguration, a single faulty instruction chain, a single cascading error does not affect thousands of people. It potentially affects hundreds of millions. The speed at which AI systems operate is precisely what makes their failure modes so much more dangerous than human ones. A human engineer making the same mistake would take days to do the damage an AI can do in minutes. But here's the thing that most coverage is still not connecting clearly enough. In April 2026, Meta said it would monitor US-based employees' behavior at their computers to train AI agents capable of using software the same way people do, treating the privacy of its own workers as collateral damage. If Meta is willing to surveil its own employees to train its AI systems, the question of what it is willing to do with 2 billion users' private conversations is not an abstract philosophical debate. It is an answered question. The company has demonstrated what it values, and user privacy is not at the top of the list. Innovation is. Market position is. AI training data is. These priorities shape every product decision Meta makes, and they are now embedded, literally, architecturally embedded, in the app where you talk to your children. Now let us get specific about what you can actually do, because authority without actionability is just anxiety creation. The situation varies significantly depending on where you are. Beyond per-chat settings, WhatsApp users can exercise a broader right to object under GDPR to prevent Meta from using their data for AI training at all. If you are in the EU, UK, Switzerland, Brazil, Japan, or South Korea, this right is legally enforceable. You can go to Meta's privacy rights request page, navigate to the Privacy Center in your Facebook app, find the Meta AI section, and submit a formal objection. There are specific forms. One to object to the use of your own information for Meta AI training. one to object to the use of information about you gathered from third-party sources, and a general catch-all for other objections. These are not symbolic gestures. They are legally binding requests that Meta is obligated to honor in those jurisdictions. For those in regions where the formal opt-out right does not exist, the options are more limited but still meaningful. When advanced chat privacy is activated in a specific WhatsApp chat, Meta AI usage in that chat is technically prevented. The AI cannot be invoked, and the chat content is explicitly excluded from processing by Meta's AI models. This does not solve the broader data collection issue, but it does create a meaningful barrier for the specific chats you care most about. Conversations with family members about medical issues, financial discussions, sensitive personal matters. Enable advanced chat privacy in those conversations now, not later. If you want to prevent other users from using private processing features in your group chats, a group admin can enable advanced chat privacy. In individual chats, either participant can enable it. This is a critical point that most opt-out guides are missing. You do not just need to protect your own settings. You need to ensure the people you are communicating with are also protected. Because if the other participant in your chat activates Meta AI features, data from your shared conversation enters Meta's processing environment regardless of your individual settings. There's also the question of the broader Meta ecosystem connection that most WhatsApp users do not realize applies to them. Only if you have linked your WhatsApp to your Meta account center will WhatsApp AI conversations personalize ads on other platforms. If you have a Facebook or Instagram account connected to the same email or phone number as your WhatsApp, and if those accounts are linked in Meta's account center, then your WhatsApp AI interactions are feeding the same advertising profile that drives the ads you see across all of Meta's platforms. Check your account center. Disconnect accounts that do not need to be linked. Understand that Meta's infrastructure is designed to merge every signal you generate across every surface into a single unified behavioral profile, and the connections between platforms are the mechanism by which that happens. The real story is that what is happening with WhatsApp AI is not primarily a feature launch. It is a data architecture consolidation. Meta's 2026 AI privacy policy represents the most significant restructuring of its advertising ecosystem since the iOS 14. 5 tracking changes in 2021. This time, the disruption comes from within. Meta is simultaneously weaponizing AI conversation data for ad targeting while imposing sweeping new restrictions on how advertisers can target. The company is building an AI-powered behavioral profiling system unprecedented in human history, not because it is reckless, but because it is precise. Every decision has been calculated. Every default setting has been chosen. The path to protecting your privacy has been made deliberately difficult, and the path to surrendering it has been made frictionless. That asymmetry is the product, not the side effect. They know that the majority of users, even the ones who feel vaguely uncomfortable about this, will not navigate 3 menus deep into settings to opt out of something they barely understand was turned on. The default is set in Meta's favor, and the path to changing it is deliberately not obvious. This is not conspiracy. This is documented standard practice in the data collection industry. Make the privacy protective choice harder than the data sharing choice, and most people will take the path of least resistance. And this brings us to the final, most uncomfortable dimension of this story. The question is not whether Meta AI in WhatsApp is good or bad technology. In isolation, some of what it offers is genuinely useful. Message summarization, writing assistance, real-time information access. The question is whether the terms under which it is offered are acceptable. And the answer to that question depends entirely on whether users understand what those terms actually are. Most do not, most will not. The company insists AI integration enhances user experience, but the lack of a straightforward opt-out for many users has fueled backlash. In the US, there is no blanket opt-out, forcing individuals to navigate complex settings to limit data usage, a process described as labyrinthine by experts. 2 billion people use WhatsApp. The majority of them have no meaningful legal protection against Meta AI processing their conversations. The majority of them do not know this. The majority of them will never read a privacy policy, will never navigate 3 menus deep into settings, will never submit a formal objection to a European regulatory framework they have never heard of. They will simply keep talking, keep sharing. Keep trusting an app that has quietly become the most valuable data collection instrument in the history of consumer technology. The European Commission is watching. Regulators in Brazil and South Korea are watching. Privacy researchers are watching. But the question that nobody is fully answering yet is whether any of it is fast enough. Regulatory processes move in years. AI training happens in milliseconds. Every day that the investigations proceed, every month that legislation debates the proper framework, Meta's AI systems are consuming more conversations, inferring more behavior, building more complete pictures of more human beings than any institution in history has ever had access to. There is a version of the future where regulators catch up. where interoperability requirements break Meta's AI monopoly inside messaging platforms, where privacy laws with real enforcement teeth spread to more jurisdictions, where users develop a collective understanding of what their data is worth and what it costs them to give it away. That future is possible. Some of the pieces are moving into place right now in Brussels and Washington and Sao Paulo. But there is another version, the version where the regulatory processes take 3 years, and in those 3 years, the behavioral profiles become so complete, the AI models become so accurate, the advertising infrastructure becomes so entrenched that restructuring it becomes practically impossible. The version where the default wins, not because Meta is more powerful than governments, but because inertia is more powerful than awareness. The version where 2 billion people looked at their phones in 2026, felt vaguely uneasy, and kept scrolling. Which version happens depends, in large part, on how many people understood what was actually at stake before the window closed. The AI is already in the app. The data is already flowing. The defaults are already set against you. What happens next is up to you. But here is the question that should keep you thinking long after this ends. If a corporation already knows what you whisper to the people you love most, what is left that they do not know? And once an AI has been trained on 2 billion people's most private conversations, what exactly do you think it is going to be used for next? Nobody's answering that question publicly. Not yet, but someone, somewhere, already knows.